Hey, it's your boy JJ Domination, and today we're here to recap Week 14 of the NFL season. Damn, man, we only got 3 weeks left. Sucks. Let's just go ahead and try to get through this. By the way, I guess I'm destined to go 10-6 from here on out because I went 10-6 again. I don't understand, man. You know, it just doesn't make sense. I calculated it again in the calculator with my updated overall record, and it did not move. It's just incredible how, I guess, fate decided, hey, you got to go 10-6 from here on out. But for some games, there's going to be a lot more to cover than others. So if I do breeze through a game, that's because, hey, man, we got a lot that we have to cover. We're going over 16 games in a 1 hour span because PlayStation doesn't let you record longer than an hour without splitting a video into two. And I really don't want to do that. So let's go ahead and start off with the Thursday night football game. Dallas Cowboys at the Chicago Bears. We know that the Chicago Bears ended up winning. And yeah, pretty good fashion for Chicago. The Bears, you know, they're starting to heat up, of course, when they have to play the Packers next week in a potential playoff clinching scenario for Green Bay. God, I hope Green Bay just wins next week. Just win, and God forbid Dallas actually beats the Rams and we can clinch a playoff spot with 11 wins. But the Bears, you know, they're starting to heat up, and Mitchell Trubisky easily played his best game of the season. It's good to see him actually using his legs, you know, because if I were to point to one thing that Mitchell Trubisky actually does well is use his legs, use his mobility, because he can move around. He's actually a pretty good athlete compared to most quarterbacks in the league, but we don't really see that a whole lot, and especially not this year. I think before that game even happened, he only had like less than 100 yards rushing. That's a crime because the man did pretty damn good in the run game for himself. But the Dallas Cowboys, man, they just provide a bunch of false hope. You know, the stats look good at the end of the game for, like, Dak Prescott, Zeke, and all these other guys, but they just don't win ball games. And their defense really isn't as good as advertised. Like, I know people have been saying, oh, you know, Dallas is like this top 10 defense. Bullshit. You don't give up 31 points to the Chicago Bears and call yourself a top 10 defense. That is absolutely ludicrous. In my opinion, like, Dallas is not top 10 in anything right now except for disappointing their fans, because they have been a disappointment. Let's just be real. And everyone wants to blame Jason Garrett, and yes, Jason Garrett is not a good coach. We've known this for years now. The real problem is the guy that keeps him in charge, and that's Jerry Jones. But, you know, once y'all start waking up and realizing that, hit me up, because I'd love to have that conversation. Because it's true. It's a real one, and a lot of people aren't ready for it. But overall, a lot of up and downs for Michael Gallup. He had a lot of ups and downs in this game. Had some drops, but man, he ended up finishing out with a really good performance, and good for him. Because he was one of my, I guess, sleepers in the draft. Same for a lot of people, and I was a little concerned when he went to Dallas because he's more suited for the vertical passing game. He's a deep threat. And Dak Prescott, really not the best deep ball thrower. Still isn't, but he has definitely done a lot better in the last couple of years. Last year, really didn't have that connection with him. This year, their timing's down. Michael Gallup's catching a lot of balls, but he did have a lot of drops in this game, too. So definitely discouraging. All right, Colts versus Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers win 38-35. Got this game wrong. God damn it, Jameis Winston. The man had almost 500 yards and 4 touchdowns, but he had 3 interceptions. But I did make a note of his interceptions. I do this for a lot of quarterbacks. Whenever they have interceptions, I like to see how they got the interceptions, you know, what was going through their mind, those kind of things. We don't really know what goes through Jameis's mind. He just kind of throws the ball up there and says, oh, 13's got to be open somewhere. But 2 of Winston's interceptions were clean. Like, Darius Leonard made a great play on 2 of them, and he had an awesome game, by the way. Good to see Darius Leonard playing at a high level. But the other one was tipped, and I can't remember who made a play on it. It might have been Malik Hooker, but either way, Jameis, man, 500 yards total damn near, and 4 touchdowns. Like, I don't know, man. There's a stat out there about Jameis Winston. He could potentially lead the NFL this year in passing yards, passing touchdowns, and interceptions. Like, he has an opportunity to do all 3. The interceptions one we pretty much know was going to be a lock. The other two, not so much, but he's not really that far behind. He's like 2 touchdowns behind Lamar Jackson, and he's like 7 passing yards behind Dak Prescott. So it's really a possibility. It's not like it can't be done. He could definitely do that. You look at the Colts offensive line versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive line. That was the matchup I was really focused on the most when, going back and watching this game. And I got to say, Tampa Bay's defensive line looked really impressive in spots, especially Vita Vea, which is not a surprise. He's been having a great year in his sophomore campaign. But the Colts offensive line obviously, did their thing. I wouldn't say they dominated, but Tampa Bay definitely got their wins in going up against that offensive line. So, an even battle. And then we got to talk about the Colts wide receiving core. Marcus Johnson filling in for the now injured Paris Campbell, who's on IR. He came in, had a couple of big catches in this game, but he played pretty well. There was no Adam Vinatieri in this game, and I can't remember the kicker's name. It's like Chase McLaurin or something, Chase McLaughlin or something. I can't remember his name, but he's the guy who he was kicking field goals earlier this year for the San Francisco 49ers. I can't think of his last name, but I do know who it is, obviously. He was on the 49ers earlier this year, and he looked pretty good. He did miss one kick or whatever. Let's see here. Mike Evans, man, he hurt his hamstring again in a non-contact injury. Remember, I think it was last year or the year before, he was running a route against Desmond Trufant. Trufant obviously didn't even touch him, and he kind of hurt his hamstring or his Achilles or something. And Mike Evans, same situation here. He was, he caught a pass for about 61 yards and ended up being, but he caught a 25-yard pass and ran it to the house. And along the way, he started to slow up a little bit, and his hamstring, something was wrong with it. I don't know if it's strained. I don't know if he tore something in his hamstring exactly. I just know he's on IR for the rest of the year. Sucks because he's my, top fantasy receiver, and it's the playoffs. So I had to go pick up Rashad Perryman. That should be interesting. Ravens versus Bills, a lot to talk about here. Everyone's been praising Josh Allen, including me. I've given him a lot of credit. This game he was bad. His completion percentage was 44%, and I didn't really know that until after, obviously checking out the stat. I did know that he did miss a lot of throws and, a lot of good pass breakups as well by the Ravens secondary. He did have a fumble, I believe, got sacked a few times. It's just a rough day for Josh Allen. I don't want to hear any excuses because everyone was like, oh, Josh Allen, big arm, in the wind, he's going to be fine. No, Lamar Jackson played in the same windy conditions, and he looked significantly better than Josh Allen. And I'm not here to be like, yeah, Lamar Jackson fanboy, yeah, fuck Josh Allen. I'm not here to do that. I'm just saying they both played in the same weather. They both played in the same conditions. It was in Buffalo, and the guy with the big arm who's 6'4" and built like Cam Newton did not play well. He didn't even complete half of his throws. So I'm really not here to hear any excuses. There was some minor takeaway here, though, for Lamar Jackson. He had a quad injury. I think he strained it on a touchdown play or something. I can't remember. He strained his quad, and he didn't really practice Monday. Granted, they didn't really practice Monday. They did a walkthrough or something, and he couldn't really partake in the walkthrough, and the team's letting him rest. And Adam Schefter, who's just digging for news on this Monday Night Football evening, was just let's make a story out of this. So they reported a minor strained quad injury, and Lamar's already come out and said he's going to play Thursday. So I told people, not really anything you need to be worried about. He strained his quad. I mean, granted, he's ran the ball 150 plus times this year. That's going to happen. It's just part of the game when you're running the ball. Minor injuries are going to happen. I've strained my quad before, and I was a little cautious about the way I was moving and the steps that I took and stuff, because you have to be. It's just one of those injuries where, especially if you're a big guy like myself and you strain your quad, you got to be pretty careful. But a guy like Lamar Jackson, he's smaller, he can move around, he can take a little bit of a beating too, because he's not this toothpick. He actually has a little muscle on him. But Mark Andrews also got hurt. I think he had a knee injury. It just wasn't a good day for him either, though, because he did drop a touchdown pass in this game, and of course that goes towards Lamar Jackson's completion percentage because he dropped it, and people will be like, oh, he didn't play that well, but really, Mark Andrews dropped, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 touchdowns for Lamar this year. It's ridiculous. Like, yeah, Mark Andrews has been, like, one of the top tight ends in football, but at the same time, it's like he's dropped a good share of big passes on third down and in the red zone for touchdowns. Not good, man. You know, like, come on. There was a nice little ad-lib touchdown. It was like an option play, you know, the same option play they run all the time in the pistol formation. Or not the same play, but a variant. You know, they do a lot of different things. And Lamar was keeping it, and he looked like he wanted to run into the end zone, but he sees Nick Boyle at the last second, kind of flicks it out to him, and it's a touchdown. To me, that's a good decision-making from Lamar. He could have easily kept the ball and just taken a big hit or had to slide for a 1-yard loss, but instead he flicks it out to his, you know, tight end, and that's good ad-lib, and that's good decision-making on the fly. That is what you want to see from a guy who's having to play in this offense. And, you know, from Buffalo's perspective, a pretty damn good game for Devin Singletary. I like the fact that they're playing him more and he's making the most of his snaps out there. Lamar did throw an interception in this game, you know, tipped in the air by Willie Snead, and Tremaine Edmonds made a play on it. Tremaine Edmonds did play very good in this game as well. And then you look at the Ravens, they love to blitz, you know, especially on third down. You know, like, they'll blitz Earl Thomas, which says a lot, because Earl Thomas is, like, the guy I would want to have back in coverage. So the fact that they're putting this much trust in guys like Brandon Carr and Chuck Clark, it just says a lot, because they're blitzing Earl Thomas on third down. That's crazy. It just goes to show you how much trust they have in the other guys. And it's something that's going to go unnoticed, you know, but it should definitely be mentioned. There was this one play that, like, the Ravens run. It's like a rollout to the right. It's like one of those gimmicky college plays. It's like everyone rolls out to the right, and it's bunched up on that side of the field. And, you know, Lamar has to make, like, a throw or whatever. That play hasn't worked all season, but yet they insist on running it. Just, come on. Don't run that play anymore. But good win for Baltimore. You know, they win 24-17, I think it was. And they have an opportunity to go for 10 straight wins against the New York Jets on Thursday Night Football. We'll see how that goes. Lions versus Vikings. Not really a whole lot to talk about here. I'm pretty sure the game ended like 20-7. Vikings. I picked up their defense in fantasy football this week. Good move on my part. Got to give myself a pat on the back for playing the waiver wire every week. People complain that my team is too stacked when everybody has the same opportunity I have. So, you know, maybe you should just get better. But Kirk Cousins, man, it continues to be money on play action. He's got to be, like, the best quarterback when it comes to throwing play action passes, because I swear I've not seen this man throw an incompletion on play action this year. He probably has, but I haven't seen it, at least. This man, Kirk Cousins, is just absolute money on play action. He's got to have the highest passer rating when throwing on play action. He just has to. That Vikings pass rush definitely ate up, though. You know, they ate up David Blau, who was making his second start. He didn't really play that well. And Marvin Jones is now on IR for the year, so that sucks. But Danielle Hunter, kind of an underappreciated pass rusher. I wouldn't say he's underrated, because I definitely think of him pretty highly, but he definitely doesn't get enough appreciation from, like, outside football fans, and he should, because he is a freaking beast, man. He had 3 sacks in this game. And then Alexander Mattison, good pitch relieving running back for Dalvin Cook, who of course did play, and I'm pretty sure he did score a touchdown as well. But it's just good to have a guy like Alexander Mattison who can play, and, you know, he hurdled somebody, I'm pretty sure, in this game. But he just makes the most of his opportunities, and that's something you'd like to see if you're a Vikings fan. They play the Chargers this upcoming week. The Chargers just kicked ass. We'll talk about them later. But should be a fun game. Of course, I'll be rooting for the Chargers, but I'm probably not going to pick them, let's be honest. Let's see here. Redskins versus Packers. Yeah, my Green Bay Packers got the job done 20-15. Not a convincing victory, but, you know, good enough. You know, they played keep away, and to be honest, in this game, just in my opinion, this is the first game we played all year where, you know, I didn't really think the other team stood a chance. Like, obviously, like, I gave Oakland a chance. I did think the Giants would pull some magic because, you know, they're like the one team that does that against Green Bay all the time. But when it came to Washington, I'm going to be honest, man, not in a cocky way, but I was not concerned about them whatsoever. And Aaron Jones went off, and it's funny because, like, apparently, like, the Redskins, like, their game plan was, you know, we're going to sell out for the run. Aaron Rodgers has to beat us, and, you know, 190 scrimmage yards later, Aaron Jones is like, what? What was that you said about stopping the run? Yeah, whatever. Again, second week, we see all 4 of Green Bay's tight ends getting involved. Chase Sternberger did drop a touchdown. That kind of sucked, but, you know, what are you going to do? It's like his second game actually getting snaps on offense. And then Robert Tonyan did catch a touchdown. That was good to see. I know a lot of Packer fans, including myself, you know, we like Robert Tonyan. He worked out with George Kittle this offseason, so I guess Green Bay fans thought he would be George Kittle. I don't know. Fucking Packer fans are weird. I'm just going to be honest. Mercedes Lewis, another good week in run blocking. And, hey, Jimmy Graham didn't look like complete trash. He caught a few passes. That's good to see. We like it when, you know, guys can actually catch the ball, you know? So, good to see that. Haskins, man, I'm going to be honest. Dwayne Haskins was bad in this game. Like, yeah, he did score a touchdown late to Terry McLaurin. That was a great catch by Scary Terry, by the way. Good job adjusting in midair to make that catch because it was a poorly thrown ball, just being honest. But Haskins wasn't really good in this game. I mean, I'm sure the future is going to look bright for him at some point. But right now, I mean, he was playing hurt in this game as well. Really had a bad time sensing pressure and... You know, honestly surprised he didn't make more mistakes. Like, he did throw 2 interceptions. I think both of them were to Adrian Amos. But I'm surprised he didn't throw more. Or fumble. But Kenny Clark and the Smith brothers, Za'Darius and Preston, completely dominated the matchups out there on the offensive line for Washington. Preston Smith, of course, playing his old team. He looked pretty good in this game. But... Darius Smith, man, that dude's a monster. He gets injured, and you think he's dead, and then he just comes back and plays. It's just weird. The guy has a high motor. Nothing to say other than that. Billy Turner, easily his best game as a Packer. I've been kind of waiting on Billy Turner to do some shit this year. Like, he really hasn't impressed me. He looked good in this game. And then Josh Jackson, you know, the former second-round pick out of Iowa at corner, a guy I really liked in the draft. I thought Green Bay was going to draft him in the first round, you know, before they traded up and we kind of figured out what they were going to do. And I called it a major W when we drafted Josh Jackson. I really liked him. He looked good. He played in the slot in this game. He played a lot of nickel corner. And you know what? To his credit, he looked pretty good. I didn't think he, you know... I thought he'd be playing more on the boundary, but Tremont Williams got that opportunity because Kevin King was injured, and then Tony Brown, who, you know, we like over here in Green Bay, you know, he didn't play either. So it was really Jair Alexander, Tremont Williams, and Josh Jackson. But Josh Jackson did look good. It's definitely good to see that he can play the slot. He did end up taking snaps away from Chandon Sullivan, who typically plays the slot if there's an injury. So good to see that. And of course, Adrian Peterson reached 14K career rushing yards. Another milestone achieved against the Packers. It seems to be his thing. Like, Adrian Peterson always gets career achievements against the Packers. It just seems to be the thing. Broncos at Texans. The Broncos won 38-24. This was my upset of the week for those that were curious and those who actually watched my prediction videos. This was my upset of the week. Denver beating Houston. It just seemed very likely to me. You know, I just thought, you know, Houston came out on fire against New England, and I thought they'd cool off, you know, because Drew Lock and them really showed a lot of good things against the Chargers, and what do you know? Drew Lock looking promising, man. He's looking pretty good. I got to give the man his credit. Wasn't really the biggest fan of him in the draft. Like, yeah, I thought he was fine, but I just wasn't really sure what to make of him, you know, and he's definitely showing people that this guy can play. And, you know, I'm not saying he'll be like this his entire career. 300 yards, a bunch of touchdowns, you know, he's going to be great. You know, I'm not saying that, but, you know, first impressions mean a lot to me in football. Excuse me. And if you have a good first impression, you know, that says a lot to me. Doesn't mean you'll be good, but it's definitely encouraging to see, you know, a player doing some good things. Noah Fant as well, very good, very, very good in this game. Getting a lot of yards after the catch, breaking tackles, just doing a lot of good things out there. And then Kareem Jackson had like a very, very good game. He had like 13 tackles, I'm pretty sure. He had an interception in this game. He got a lateral pass from like Jeremiah Atachu for a touchdown. Just a great game for Kareem Jackson. A bad interception from Drew Lock, though. I think he was throwing it in like double coverage, but you know, it is like his second game, so we are going to chill. We're going to give him a pass. I mean, it's like the only, you know, I think he's thrown 2 picks this year. That was like his worst one. I'll give the dude a rest. He's been playing pretty damn good. He's exceeded early expectations. And Deshaun Watson, you know, really didn't have a good first half. Second half, he played much better. You know, he did have a good rushing touchdown where he like hurdled over a guy, jumped in the air. But, you know, like there's not really much I can say about Houston. They just didn't play well. Their defense didn't play well. And that's really my big takeaway. Like, Denver's not a bad football team. You look at their record and you think, yeah, this team is terrible. They're not. Honestly, they're better than a lot of teams, you know, out there. Like, they've been playing really good football recently. And the Kansas City Chiefs got to play Denver this upcoming week. I don't know if I want to be playing Denver right now. They look pretty good. But a team like Kansas City, who also just beat New England, which we'll talk about later, we'll see if they get their ass kicked like Denver, similar to Houston. Who knows, man? Second time that the Broncos have been someone's rebound game for beating the Patriots. We'll see. 49ers Saints, man, a lot of things to talk about right here. 48-46. San Francisco wins, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Jimmy Garoppolo, in my mind, I never thought he was the weakness of this team. People who said that, in my opinion, just really weren't the brightest stars in the galaxy, now were they? I mean, let's be honest, you know, Jimmy Garoppolo, the whole notion about him was, yeah, he looks fine, but he hasn't played enough games. We're not sure. And this season, he has been answering a lot of questions and then some. To me, Jimmy Garoppolo has been very impressive, and he was just involved in a shootout, a football shootout, not like a criminal one. He was involved in an NFL shootout with Drew Brees, who's one of the best quarterbacks in football and one of the greats to ever lace up a pair of cleats at the position, and he outgunned him. Now, Drew Brees had better stats, or like one more touchdown than he did, or 2 more, but Garoppolo proved, hey, I can hang with, you know, Drew Brees. I can get into a shootout, and I've been really impressed with the 49ers this year. They've definitely exceeded my expectations. I was not the highest on them this year. I thought next year was going to be, you know, the season that they're having now. I thought that was going to be next year, but you know what? Good for them, being a year ahead of schedule. Drew Brees, like we said, he played amazing. He looked really good out there. I mean, not really a whole lot of bad you could say about Brees. Raheem Mostert and Emmanuel Sanders on that trick play, man, that was sick. Raheem Mostert and Emmanuel Sanders also had a great game. It wasn't just one play. Like, they played amazing. And you got to give them a ton of credit right there. Jared Cook, you know, he had 2 catches, got 2 touchdowns. He did end up getting hurt, and we're going to talk about some more guys from this game that got hurt because a lot of players went down. Some for the season, some for, you know, maybe a couple of weeks. We'll see. We're going to talk about them right now, though. The 49ers side of things, their center, Weston Richburg, it looks like he's going to be done for the year. Richard Sherman, looks like it could be a couple of weeks. Maybe week 17 he comes back, plays Seattle. You know, but for right now, it looks like it might be a couple of weeks. Same thing with D Ford. It looks like it could be a couple of weeks, maybe the rest of the regular season. I think he re-aggravated some injury he had. Then you look at Marcus Davenport and Sheldon Rankins for the Saints. They both are out for the season. It was just announced that Sheldon Rankins was going to be out for the year, and they brought in Noah Spence, former first rounder, or no, not former first rounder, former like second or third rounder from Tampa Bay. Pretty decent player, never really found his footing in Tampa Bay. And I think he was on the Redskins for like a cup of coffee, and then they ended up cutting him. And the Saints just put in a claim. They got him. He's now a part of the Saints. We'll see how he looks in the rotation. I'm pretty sure this will create an opportunity for other guys in that pass rushing rotation as well. Let's see here. Kendrick Bourne, he had 2 touchdowns in this game by himself. He looked pretty good. Kendrick Bourne, he looked really good actually. And the Saints secondary did not. But we're gonna talk about some officiating. It wasn't really good. Some missed pass interference calls. I can't really blame that reasoning for why the Saints lost, but definitely bad officiating. We're going to talk about bad officiating later, but for sure that was discouraging. And then you look at a guy that I really liked in the draft, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. He's kind of like a nickel corner, an extra safety. He can do a little bit of everything. He's a very versatile player. I really liked him coming out of Florida. And, he's just a little over-aggressive, and maybe, depending on who you ask, I guess it could be a good thing, but he's an overly aggressive player. Not in a bad way in terms of like, I don't want to be on this guy's team. I don't want to be on the field with him. But, sometimes he's a little overboard. Like, he got flagged a few times this game for helmet to helmet. I think he had a face mask as well. Unnecessary roughness again. Like, he got flagged for a few things. He's a really talented player, though. And the Saints, that's another awesome find on their part. And then George Kittle. George frickin' Kittle. So, that's just interesting right there. Let's see. George Kittle. Big play from him. He had that touch, or not a touch. Did he have a touchdown? Yeah, he did. A 5-yard touchdown. But he had that big catch, of course, where he, dragged down, a few players, set him up for the game-winning field goal. And I'm going to be honest, a lot of people probably aren't ready for this conversation. Is George Kittle the best tight end in football? Is he? Because I think it's time to really have that debate. I love Travis Kelce. I love Zach Ertz. But I think it might just be George Kittle. Last year people just thought, George Kittle just had a breakout year. He looks good, but how's he going to look next season? And dare I say, he's been the best tight end this year. I think it's time to really have that debate. Bengals versus Browns, I don't really have a whole lot of takeaways. Nick Chubb and Joe Mixon played well. Good to see. This was David Njoku's return game. Only had 1 catch for 4 yards. Didn't really do a whole lot out there. Baker really didn't look good either against the Bengals. The Bengals are terrible. Everybody looks good against them. And he didn't, and it's definitely discouraging. His sophomore slump, and that's basically what I've chalked it up to, is him having a sophomore slump. It continues, but one of his interceptions, man, it was tipped in the air, and the other one was basically taken away from David Njoku by Nick Vigil, who made a great play on the football. Good for him. And then Denzel Ward, of course, had a nice pick 6. Tyler Boyd played good. Auden Tate, it looks like he's going to go on IR. They brought back Damian Willis. But, that's about it. Don't really have a whole lot of takeaways from that game. The Browns won, 27-13, 27-20. I can't remember the score, but the Browns won. Definitely took notes of, what happened on the field. I just didn't have a whole lot of takeaways from this game. I really didn't care, to be honest. Panthers versus Falcons. The Falcons beating those Panthers. They sweep the Carolina Panthers 2-0 this year. And they just looked like an uninspired team right now. Obviously they fired their head coach, but I thought they'd be playing with a little bit more fire and passion than this. And, just Kyle Allen most likely just isn't the guy moving forward. It was another bad game for him against the Atlanta Falcons specifically. He played horrible against them the first time, and he gets a second crack at him, and he plays bad again. But talking about the other quarterback for a second, Matt Ryan, he just hit a hell of a milestone earlier in the game. 50,000 career passing yards. I think he's on a short list of quarterbacks that have done it. I think it's 8 people that have done it now that Matt Ryan's in there, 8 or 9. But congratulations to him. We know Matt Ryan's had a heck of a career for a guy that hasn't won a Super Bowl. He's been pretty damn good. He's hit a lot of statistical milestones. He's won an MVP, so congrats to Matt Ryan. Matty Ice, as they like to call him. Now back to Kyle Allen. In my opinion, listen, I've given this guy opportunity after opportunity, okay? I'm just going to keep it real. He's a backup quarterback, okay? And I know a lot of people Don't want to hear that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know a lot of people, just aren't ready to really talk about that. But in my opinion, man, Kyle Allen is a backup quarterback, okay? He fumbles a lot. He makes some questionable decisions. He does a lot of good things. Like, he can run the RPO system just fine. He has a little bit of running ability. He's shown some mobility throughout the year. But to me, he's just a backup quarterback. Like, yeah, he's fine. If your quarterback's down for 3 or 4 weeks, yeah, I'm pretty sure he could play well, but not for an entire season. You cannot go out there next season for an entire year saying Kyle Allen is our quarterback one moving forward. You just can't, because he's not that guy. And I hate to be the guy that says it, because everyone's been riding the Kyle Allen train about, oh, he wins a lot, and he wins a lot, and blah, blah. Who else won a lot? Tim Tebow, and he's playing baseball. So, I don't really care. Yeah, winning is important. Winning means a lot. Winning to me is damn near everything. But you gotta look good while doing it, and you have to have, the traits of being a great quarterback, and to me, Kyle Allen just doesn't have those. No offense, I'm pretty sure, next week he'll probably have like 500 yards passing, and I'll be like, you know what, Kyle Allen could probably really play. But for right now, I just don't care. Like, he's a backup quarterback. I'm sorry, it is what it is. What's this dude's name right here? He had a 93-yard touchdown. Okay, Olamide Zacharias. I don't know this dude's name, but he had a 93-yard touchdown for the Falcons. Broke a tackle from Dante Jackson. Just great stuff right there. DeMonte KZ had a pretty damn good game himself. 2 interceptions in this game. One was tipped in the air. The other one was just clean. Like, he just read the whole play like a book. And then Young Ho Koo. He had a good day kicking, and he recovered a fumble. He recovered a fumble on a kick return. Just great stuff right there. Dolphins at Jets. Dolphins won this game. Or no, they didn't. Jets won this game 22-21. The Dolphins scored all their points in field goals because Jason Sanders went 7 of 8 from field goal kicking. He had a damn near record day with kicking field goals. Surprisingly, someone did kick 8 field goals in a game. Jason Sanders, though, wow. Wow, dude. Le'Veon Bell as well. He was out due to illness, and apparently there's this story going around that, he was bowling at like 1 a.m. on a Sunday morning. Definitely some tension there within the organization, if that story is actually true. I just think it's hilarious. Le'Veon Bell got the bag, he signed, whatever. Now, and then they talked about, like, oh, they didn't want to give him that much money. Adam Gase wasn't a fan of the signing. Like, yeah, there's some tension there. Really bad stuff going on there with the Jets, if all that is true. I do want to give a shout-out to the Dolphins player Isaiah Ford at wide receiver for Miami. Came in after, he played a good bit in the game before that, but really started to play a lot more when Devontae Parker went down with an injury, and he finished the game pretty good. He had a pretty good stat line, but he just looked good out there. And that's really all I have to say. I really don't have a whole lot to say about this game. Again, just one of those I don't care about. And our next game, another one that I really just don't care about, but it's good for Phillip Rivers, like Chargers at Jags. Let's talk about it. The Chargers won 45-10. Yeah, I guess it's all Nick Foles. I guess it's his fault, right? Oh, he didn't play in this game. It was Gardner Minshew. We'll talk about him later. But Phillip Rivers played very well, and you know what? For his sake, I'm glad to see that he's playing better. We've all been hard on him, including me. But it's just good to see him playing well. He had a bad string of games, and it's good to see him actually picking up his production. But speaking of production, or in this case, lack thereof, let's put all the Gardner Minshew bias aside. I know that we all like him and his mustache, and he's cool, he's flashy, he wears a jock strap. Like, I get it. He's a cool guy. He's a meme. He's fun. He's like, like Alex Caruso in the NBA. Yeah, that's basically Gardner Minshew. He's our memeable player, who he's not all that good, but we like him. We love him. He's a sensation. Let's put all the BS and the bias aside. The offense still can't score points with him or without him in the lineup. So it just doesn't matter at the end of the day. So I mean, put all that Gardner Minshew bullshit aside. This offense can't produce points with him or with Nick Foles, so it doesn't matter. Sure, he's slightly better than Nick Foles at the moment because he can actually move around in the pocket, escape pressure to some degree, but he's just not that good. And the Chargers offense couldn't be stopped. The Jaguars defense could not stop a nosebleed. And this Jaguars team, man, they look broken to me. They look a little defeated. They're not looking too good right now. But let's talk about something that's not looking good right now. The New England Patriots on offense, because from what I've been hearing, it's all the receivers' fault. Because Tom Brady never is at fault for anything, that has to do with the offense. It's everyone else's fault. God damn it, why can't I have 3 DeAndre Hopkins on the field? Why can't I have 2 George Kittles on the field? Why can't I have 5 Quentin Nelsons on the field? Boo-hoo. I don't know, because that's not how football works. Tom Terrific, or Terrific Tom, or Tom Brady from Ted 2. I mean, that's just not how it works. I don't want to hear any excuses about the lack of weapons for Tom Brady, because you know what? There are at least 3 or 4 playoff teams out there that would love to have a Mohamed Sanu. They'd love to have a N'Keal Harry. They'd love to have a Philip Dorsett, for crying out loud. You look at the Saints, Mohamed Sanu would easily be the second best receiver on the team. You look at Green Bay, Mohamed Sanu would easily be the best, or not the best, second best receiver on the team, because of course we got Devontae Adams, that guy, you know what I'm saying? And then you look at a team like Baltimore, he'd come in and at least be the second best receiver behind Hollywood Brown. And then you look at, let's see, Buffalo, he'd be competing for the slot receiver position with Cole Beasley. There's teams out there in the NFL where Mohamed Sanu would be an instant upgrade over what they had originally. But the narrative is Tom Brady does not have explosive receivers. These guys can't play. They're scrubs. Yeah, let's not blame the 42-year-old quarterback that just doesn't really look that good right now. Let's blame all of his receivers. Let's blame the first-round pick, N'Keal Harry. Let's blame the guy that they traded a second-round pick for in Mohamed Sanu. Let's blame the fact that they drafted a running back in the first round in Sony Michel, who, because his offensive line has some injuries and they've taken a step down, they can't run the football. What do you mean you can't run the football? The Chiefs have one of the worst run defenses in the league, and you're telling me you can't run the football? Or did you not try to run the football, really? Which one is it? Because the Chiefs' run defense is garbage. I don't want to hear that you can't run the football. Tampa Bay, who doesn't really run the football at all, could probably run the football against Kansas City. So I ain't trying to hear that excuse. Just admit it. You lost. You didn't look good this game. However, I think this is an encouraging loss for New England. Why? Because, let's face it, their defense only gave up 3 points after halftime. Okay? And then you look at the fact that they blocked a punt in this game. They controlled field position thanks to their special teams in general. And you know what? Brady, whatever. He was okay, I guess. But there's some things to be encouraged about right there. And the officiating was awful. I'm not going to deny it. And this is the part that I don't like. So N'Keal Harry crosses the foul line, right? The refs are thinking he stepped out at the 3-yard line. He didn't. We saw the replay several times. But because they did not rule it a touchdown, they didn't review it. Because normally they do that for scoring plays or turnovers. They don't do it for, he stepped out at the 3. We got to review that. There's no official review on potentially, based on the ref's ruling, he stepped out at the 3-yard line. And why couldn't they challenge it? Because they used all their challenges. They used both of them in the third quarter. And they lost one, which was egregious. It was a spot challenge or whatever, where Sammy Watkins didn't cross the 40-yard line, but they say that he did. And then you look at, I think there was a play where was there a fumble? And then, they blew the whistle dead on a play where Stephon Gilmore could have gave them much better field position. I'm not going to say he would have scored, but could have given them much better field position. And then the N'Keal Harry touchdown that wasn't a touchdown. The Patriots got an opportunity after that to try to score, and I'm pretty sure they had to settle for 3. And then they marched down the field again. And you know what? It was 4th down, game's on the line, and Julian Edelman couldn't come up with it. Rashad Breeland made a great play on the ball. He also picked off Tom Brady, so good for him. I just don't want to hear any excuses from Patriot fans. You know, I get it, the officiating was bad, but if Tom Brady's the GOAT and your team is that team, should have been able to get it done. You know, you were my lock of the week and you disappointed. What else can I really say? Titans versus Raiders. You know, Ryan Tannehill, he's been balling. He's been red hot. He deserves a lot of credit. You know who else deserves a lot of credit? Derrick Henry continues to be a beast. You know, he's currently 2nd in rushing yards, 1st in rushing touchdowns in the NFL. He might be the pure best running back right now in football. Of course, overall, it's probably like Dalvin Cook or Christian McCaffrey. There's other guys in there, but just straight up running the football, pounding it, it might be Derrick Henry. And you want to know who else is playing better? A.J. Brown. The dude can play. And again, breaking news, the Titans actually have talent, but you don't really know that unless they have a quarterback that can push the ball down the field and move the ball down the field. And they have that in Ryan Tannehill. They didn't in Marcus Mariota, because it was check down, Delaney Walker, crossing route, or bust. With this team, you can actually move the football down the field. And A.J. Brown looked very good. He was my 2nd wide receiver in the draft behind DK Metcalf. And what do you know? They're both the best rookies at their position. It's almost like I seen that coming. But let's continue. Derek Carr, breaking news, is average. Like I said in the preseason, when we were talking about franchises you should use, the Oakland Raiders, first thing I said was Derek Carr is average. He just is. Like, he's fine. Average does not mean bad. Average is good in the NFL. It's just not great. That's the problem. Derek Carr's fine. He's not great. He's good, not great. Name one thing that Derek Carr is great at. I'll wait. I got all day. And I think Oakland, to be honest, might have just sealed their playoff fate. They lost to Tennessee. Let's say Tennessee catches fire. They finish as a 6 seed, right? Well, Tennessee now owns the tiebreaker over Oakland because they beat them head-to-head. So because of that, it's not looking good for Oakland. I think they might have just sealed their playoff fate. It's not looking good. Steelers versus Cardinals. You know, an up-and-down game for Kyler Murray. That pass rush after him all day. His offensive line just sucks. Nothing I could really say. His offensive line's terrible. Devlin Hodges looked good, though, but the main story in this game was Deontay Johnson. He had a punt return for a touchdown and a receiving touchdown. He basically was the offense for Pittsburgh. He played very well, and, you know, the run game was a little disappointing. They were able to run the football, but it took a committee. It wasn't Benny Snell really doing well. You know what I mean? Seahawks at Rams. This was just a bad overall game for Seattle. By the way, Pittsburgh won their game. I'm glad I didn't go with the upset pick or whatever, but the Titans are also getting hot. So yeah, I forgot to cover a couple of things. The Titans getting hot. They face Houston 2 out of their next 3 games. But Seahawks versus the Rams right here. A bad overall game from the Seahawks. You know, the Rams just played much better than they did. And that's going to happen. You know, I picked the Rams to win this game, and they did. But this narrative that the Seahawks don't have talent, it's Russell Wilson's team or bust, you know, that's got to stop. This team does have talent. They have dudes that can play. They just played a bad game against the Rams. You see, this is why I hate narratives in sports. The Seahawks have good players. You were just gassing up Quandre Diggs and Jadeveon Clowney, and all of a sudden, they don't have players. It's Russell Wilson's team, and, you know, like, it's Russell Wilson or bust. But you were just gassing up all their players. So I really don't want to hear it. And who knew? Who knew that Todd Gurley running the football opens up the offense? Who knew? And Jared Goff, that allowed him to play well. And you look at Cooper Kupp, he had a great game. Taylor Rapp made some big plays on defense. He made a couple of big stops on 3rd and 4th down as well. Did some really good things in that game. Seattle's offensive line, we know they could run block. Pass protection doesn't look good, but we've known that. So it's not really news to me. And Russ just didn't play that well. You know, he was good. He definitely had some good moments. but he just didn't play like an MVP. It happens. You know, they split the season series. It's just how it goes. It's fine. I'm not worried about Seattle. I'm worried about the Rams moving forward because they play Dallas this weekend. That's a must-win game for them. And then, you know, after that, who do they play? Arizona. And then after that, they play... Oh, no. Who do they play week 16? God, it's going to bother me. It's going to bother me. Let's see. Rams schedule 2019. Who do they play? The 49ers week 16 and then the Cardinals. Okay, makes sense. It's going to be a tough schedule for them. They may miss out on the playoffs. You know, the Vikings, it really just depends. Same thing with Green Bay. Hell, even Seattle could fall off. Who knows? It's going to be interesting for the Rams. They may or may not squeak in. Giants versus Eagles. You know, I don't really know what to make of this Eagles game. I've been a little reluctant to just... I've been a little reluctant to sell my stock on the Philadelphia Eagles. They're bad this year. They're just a bad football team, you know, but there is a certain upside to them. You know, like if they get into the playoffs, there's a certain upside. Like I could believe Philadelphia as a 4 seed beating a 5 seed. I have more belief in that than Dallas doing it, if you want my honest opinion. It took OT, though. It took overtime to beat the Giants, who are a 2-win football team. Also your division rival, who is trying to play spoiler, but I don't know. I don't really know what to make of this game, but I do have to give credit to Carson Wentz. The dude entered the game with 3 healthy wide receivers. Ended the game with 1 healthy wide receiver. You know, Alshon Jeffrey out for the season with a foot injury, and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is going to be out, I guess, with like some hamstring injury. I don't know if he's going to be out this week, but he missed the rest of that game. Lane Johnson went down as well in like the 3rd quarter. He was carted off the field. And their only healthy receiver was Greg Ward, who's an undrafted free agent and a former college quarterback. So, just discouraging. Wentz played well, though, in the second half and overtime. He played much better. The first half, a little discouraging, you know, so nothing really to make out of that. Boston Scott, you know, he started out as a returner for this team. He's a running back, but he started out returning kicks for this team. He looks pretty good. He looks like a Darren Sproles clone out there. I'm not saying he is, but he kind of looks like it. But I do want to praise the old man for a second. Eli Manning did look really good out there. You know, I didn't really look at his stats. I'm pretty sure they were okay, but Eli had a couple of throws in this game where you're like, damn, he can still play. Hold on. Wait a second. The man can still play. And he definitely showed that here when he had those 2 awesome touchdown passes to Darius Slayton, who, by the way, is just on fire. He may be the 3rd best rookie receiver this year, behind DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown, in my opinion. You know, Darius Slayton kind of come out of nowhere. And Saquon, I got to keep it a buck with Saquon. He has not looked the same since his injury. I still think he's a great running back, but he just doesn't have the same burst or the same, you know, vision. You know, like his cuts aren't as smooth. Like, you got all that power. Your lower half is built. You got tree trunk legs. Like, just run someone's ass over, dude. But that's all I really have to say about this week's games. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and we will see you next week. You know, I don't know when the predictions video is going to come out because I am going to a Christmas party on Saturday, so I may have to do it Saturday morning. That's going to be interesting. I'll keep you guys updated. Peace out, guys.